Hi, I'm Ken Kessler, and welcome to the Sounds of Christmas podcast. If you're new to this podcast, I want to start by saying thanks for joining us. If you're not new to us, welcome back. Either way, I'm glad you're here. Now, to avoid any confusion, I want to say that there won't be any music played here. This is a place for conversation. I'll talk about Christmas music and some related topics, sometimes by myself and sometimes with guests. If you're looking for music, just go to soundsofchristmas.com and click on the tree or the player on the front page or on the Listen Now page. We play the best variety of Christmas music all year long. Well, except in October, when we play the best variety of Halloween music. Since Christmas music and legal news are intersecting this week, I wanted to talk to someone more qualified than I about it. And I'm very happy to have Kessler Law Firm Associate Attorney Wendy Diaz join us to do that. Hi, Wendy.
Hey, Ken.
I thought it would be really good to sort of do this almost like a dual podcast, as we're each on each other's podcast, because of the legal world and the Christmas music world kind of colliding this week. So here's the story. In 1989, the group Vince Vance and the Valiants released a bluesy country Christmas single called All I Want for Christmas Is You. Made it onto the charts a couple years later, and it became something of a standard for country radio. In fact, since then, it's become the most played country music Christmas song. It's been covered by lots of artists. LeAnn Rimes, Kelly Clarkson had it on her album last year. But the song by that same title that you probably know a little better is the one Mariah Carey recorded in 1994. It's the song she co-wrote. It's been a top 10 hit since 1994, every December since then. Last year, it became the first Christmas song to reach 1 billion streams on Spotify. And with its continued chart success year after year, Billboard has named it the greatest holiday song of all time. Your mileage may vary on that, but that's what Billboard says. Mariah's song's been covered by hundreds of artists. One of the most recent was Dolly Parton, and she did a duet with Jimmy Fallon. You've probably heard that one. But now...
that I have.
I bet you have. But now Andy Stone, who was, and I guess still is, Vince Vance in the first band I mentioned, has filed a copyright lawsuit against Mariah Carey. Wendy, can you kind of take us through this?
Yes. So for the record, I am very familiar with Mariah Carey. I have not heard of Mr. Stone, aka Vince Vance, until this lawsuit. So a copyright suit is also known as copyright infringement, where basically you're using someone's item, in this case, the music title, without that person's permission. Something similar happened with Ed Sheeran with his song and the OI part of it, and he was ultimately successful with that lawsuit against another songwriter with a similar sounding vocal part.
Have you heard the Vince Vance song by this title?
Not until the lawsuit came about. I hadn't listened to it, and I will say, other than the title, they are completely different songs.
Yeah, you don't have to be a musicologist to listen to these two songs and know that they're not remotely similar. They don't have lyrics that are even close to the same. Music is definitely not the same. The only thing they have in common seems to be the title. Does this lawsuit even...
The title and the theme of it being a Christmas song, those are really the only two similarities I could find.
Yeah. Does this lawsuit, does Mr. Stone even suggest that anything was taken from his song besides the title?
No. Well, maybe perhaps any potential money his song could have made on country music radio, but that's not really listed, other than he is asking for, I believe, $20 million. But other than the quote infringement of the copyright of the title, that's the only thing that is being alleged. Nothing in regards to lyrics or tunes, just the title.
I'm not a lawyer, obviously, but I Googled it, which is very dangerous, I know, and the Copyright Office says that you can't copyright a title.
No, you In regards to what do you mean by you can't copyright a title? Let me make sure I understand.
Okay, like a song title, like the title of a book or the title of a movie.
There are many songs, not even just these two. There are a lot of other songs with the same title. There are plenty of songs with similar titles. I think Adele has a song that has a title with other artists as well. So I don't think that there is a copyright infringement in regards to titles because you can't own a title, at least in regards to music.
Yeah, Adele had a hit. I want to say a few years ago, but time goes fast, so it could have been longer. But it was simply called "Hello," and Evanescence had a hit by that name. Oasis did. Lionel Richie did. Nobody complained. I mean, I know it's a one-word title, but I remember in the 80s, Huey Lewis had a song from Back to the Future called The Power of Love. And it was really weird because at the same time, there were two other hits that were on the charts that also were called The Power of Love. Completely different songs, completely different artists. Nobody sued anybody, though.
And looking at Adele and Lionel Richie, it's similar to these, well, even more so, the songs are vastly years apart. These two, they have a couple years in between, but the method's the same. They're completely different from one another.
Now, Vince Vance, I don't know if they still perform as a band. They haven't released anything in almost 20 years, but I know they were doing some things. He's a Louisiana guy, I think New Orleans, and I know they play around there every now and then. And that's where this lawsuit was filed. Mariah is in New York. Does that make any difference?
It's a federal suit, so in regards to the federal laws, it can, but because Vince Vance lives in Louisiana, that's more likely the reason why he's choosing that venue to be there, because he resides there.
Okay, like a home court.
Yeah.
Okay. The other thing that really sticks out to me is that his song came out in 1989, made it onto the charts in 1993. Mariah wrote and released her song in 1994. It's been almost 30 years. Why this lawsuit now? Any idea?
The only idea that I can think of is money.
Right.
Things have gotten vastly expensive from the late 80s, early 90s to now. The pandemic has not helped prices, and everyone's wanting a jolly feeling with, adding more than just Christmas in July. It's Christmas all year round to keep a positive flow of a lot of the negative aspects of being isolated and quarantined throughout the pandemic, especially if someone's high risk. But I really just think it's just the revival of her popularity more than just during December, perhaps during July, and she's making money off of it, and it's, you got it, people got to eat, people got to pay bills, and on a personal level, that's what I think is, he wants his money.
I guess I sort of get it because it's I know people in the music business, and it's hard to get a song on the radio, and he was just about there in 1993, and then this juggernaut of Mariah Carey and All I Want for Christmas Is You, her song, exploded, and his was still popular, but nothing even close. And I'm sure that was frustrating, but I just don't see that it was illegal.
I don't see any illegality. I think that country music is a niche genre. There's country stations all over the place. There's country people everywhere. I like country music myself. It's not primarily what I listen to, though. And Mariah Carey is more pop culture, more mainstream, more so back then than she was now. And just by the nature of who her target audience is and who she caters to is just a more broad, in a generic, objective way. It's a bigger audience than a niche of country music. So that probably also helped getting it out there and having the popularity increase throughout the last 3 decades.
I saw that with this lawsuit, and I don't know if this is included in it or is an additional thing, but Mr. Stone claims that Mariah is guilty of violating the Lanham Act. What is that?
It's basically a trademark act from 1947. There are 4 elements plus the injury aspect of it. So in order for Vince Vance to prove that she did violate the Lanham Act, it's number 1, a violation or a misleading fact. More than likely he's going to say it's the title of the song, and it was used in a commercial way for commercial advertising or promotions, which her job is being a singer. It deceives in a material way. How a song title, "All I Want for Christmas Is You," is deceitful. I don't really know how he's gonna overcome that. There has to be an element of interstate commerce. It's a worldwide song. All of those things have to cause some sort of competitive or commercial injury. I don't know. Obviously, he didn't get paid because his song wasn't as popular as he would have liked it to be. But whether Mariah Carey's songs and her actions of marketing that song is more than likely under a contract to do, and even if she wasn't under a contract, as a singer, you want your song out there. I don't think he is going to meet the threshold that she violated the Lanham Act.
Yeah, it seems, and this is probably being kind, it seems like a stretch.
I think so too. I think if he would have made this argument maybe in 95, heck, probably even 98, or as soon as the song, the country music airwaves completely took off his song and maybe put on hers, which I don't know. I've never heard her song on country music radio, even during Christmas time when Sirius XM is the country music is all Christmas. I've never heard her song there. So in regards to deceiving in a material way or using it to attract other people, I don't think that's a big stretch.
Yeah. And if this really is just about the title, it's hypocrisy for him to do this because there's a rock band named Foghat that released a Christmas single in 1981, and it was an original thing that they wrote, and guess what it was called?
All I Want for Christmas Is You.
Yes. And not only that, but almost 20 years before that, there was an R&B singer, she's still around, Carla Thomas, who had a Christmas song that was written for her by the guy who wrote Oh Pretty Woman, and it was called All I Want for Christmas Is You. And that was 1963. So I'm just waiting for these 2 acts to go after him for $20 million.
Well, and also, you being more of a music buff than I am, I know you're familiar with the issue with Taylor Swift and Big Machine Records and the masters of what she recorded on a lot of her popular songs. Mm-hmm. Because of that contract, those songs belong to, or those recordings rather, belong to Big Machine. They don't belong to Taylor Swift. So she had to go and independently re-record and redo all of those things so she can retake ownership. I think the only thing Mr. Vance can do is just try to promote his song again. Who knows? Maybe that's why he even filed the lawsuit, because it's probably maybe in the less than $1,000 to file a lawsuit in federal court in Louisiana. Don't hold me to that, but it has to be less than that. It's now, we're talking about it on a podcast. It's on the news. So maybe it was just a way for him to get some people to listen to his music to make some money. And then he'll just drop the lawsuit at the end. You never know, but him wanting $20 million, I don't think it's going to happen.
Yeah. And $20 million is, where did that number come from? Did he just sort of, or his lawyers just sort of think this is a good big round number? Do they think that Mariah just has that in the couch cushion? She's going to pull it out and give it to him?
It could be. I mean, I don't know what her and Nick Cannon got going on in regards to their custody and their kids. So I don't know how much rolling in the dough, she has, because kids are expensive. But I just, the $20 million I think is a very even number. It's a number that people can understand if this does go to a jury, and it could be a number that she can afford if Mr. Vance wins. Now, granted, if this does go forward and he loses, he could be on the hook for her attorney's fees, which I would anticipate would be very expensive.
Yeah. And
In one way, shape, or form, a lot of money is going to come out before it comes in.
Yeah. And he's also, she's just part of this lawsuit. He's also named Sony. And I'm sure that, not to take anything away from Mariah, but I'm sure Sony has a pretty good team of lawyers on standby.
Yes, I'm pretty sure Sony has very good in-house counsel, and I'm sure they have copies of the contract, and the contracts are going to be looked into. I think he even, from my reading, he even tried to reach out to them last year, and they didn't respond, and no response is a response. So this was the next step for him. But I think at the end of the day, it's just, he has bills to pay, and I think this is what he's trying to do to get those bills paid.
Yeah, I saw this, and I just, I don't know. I don't see where I just can't see that this is going to do anything for him. Maybe get his song, maybe a few more people to know about it, but we're talking about it in June. There's not a whole lot of people who are listening to Christmas music right now, and the public's memory is short. So unless this somehow stays in the news for 6 months, it's not going to help him when December rolls around.
I agree. I think that depending on the window of time in federal court, usually it's 20 or 30 days. I expect that either a motion to dismiss is going to be filed. A motion for a summary judgment would be filed by the defendant, which would be Mariah Carey, Sony, because if I were practiced in that area, that would be the first place I would go to, just nip it in the bud. So, and I think that's what her lawyers are going to do before it even makes it to a courtroom.
I haven't seen any sort of response from Sony or from Mariah in public, and that's not a surprise. I haven't even seen anything from Vince Vance, although he or Mr. Andy Stone, he doesn't have certainly the kind of social media machine or following that Mariah does. How does something like this get a lawsuit filed in Louisiana against a celebrity in New York? How does suddenly everybody know about this?
Mariah Carey's famous.
Yeah, well, she is famous, but
in regards to it getting out there, generally the media has boots on the ground for people to check the filings of the day, because filing court documents is public record. You might have to request the documents from the clerk or from the agency in charge of keeping the record and the court file up to date. I know in my community there's a department that's their job. They check the cases that were opened within the last 24 to 48 hours and see what they're about. So it could very well be that that's how the information got out, or he, called the news and said, I'm suing Mariah Carey, check, give me a couple days and you can check the case out online. But in regards to, I don't think a clerk leaked anything. I don't think anyone that works at the courthouse or in the system of this case behind the scenes, I don't think they leaked it. I think it's just one of the boots on the ground from a media person doing his or her job, or a leak from in-house themselves as a party of the suit.
So basically it could be as simple as paparazzi snapping a picture of somebody coming out of a restaurant, same sort of thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Same sort of thing. If you're in a public place, you happen to be there, there's a camera there, I can take the picture and sell it. They can't sell the lawsuit, but they can sell the story of the lawsuit.
Any predictions on this? Do you think Mariah just pulls out a $1 million and says, I'll give you this if you go away?
No, I think her lawyers, and I think Sony in particular, because I don't know who owns the song, even though Miss Mariah Carey may have wrote it, she might not own it. Similar to how Taylor Swift wrote a lot of her songs, but Big Machine Records was in fact the owner. So I think the first question is, who is the owner of the song? Because that's the person making the money. And let's say if they are the owners, and if a motion to dismiss or summary judgment is able to get this out the door, nip it in the bud with the least amount of time and hassle on my client, that would be the way I would go. Because just from the basic information that I have on this case and what he filed and what he's after, I don't think he's going to meet the threshold.
Yeah, and I had mentioned the rock band Foghat. I have a friend actually who's one of the members of that band, not one of the original members, but one of the members of that band. And absolutely, if he makes a nickel from this, I feel like I gotta tell my friend that go get that nickel from him, because you guys had the song title first.
It opens the door to something dangerous, and the precedent is really on Mariah Carey's side, with, again, Taylor Swift and Big Machine, Ed Sheeran, and his song, and it also an uncalculated precedent in regards to the arbitrary number that is pulling out. Taylor Swift was able to prove what she lost and the time that she put into the songs and the contract. She had at least some sort of, and she lost. So it is a very much an uphill battle, and I think well before Christmas we'll be hearing about this again, and that it's over.
Yeah, I can't imagine that this is going to go much farther. I would just add that Mr. Stone should be very careful, because about 20 years ago, Joel Whitburn from Billboard magazine published a thing about Vince Vance's All I Want for Christmas Is You, and how close the melody is to a song from the early 60s by Bobby Vinton called My Heart Belongs to Only You. And I have listened to that, and I invite anybody who's listening to this to go find it on YouTube and listen to My Heart Belongs to Only You by Bobby Vinton, and then listen to All I Want for Christmas Is You by Vince Vance, and you'll notice that the melodies are almost identical. And I just feel like lawyers stand by, because that's next.
It's a very dangerous door, dangerous door. And I wouldn't be surprised if Sony and Mariah Carey have investigators on the ground to do some sort of financial investigation on Andy Stone, Vince Vance, because it's very strange that this is happening now. And that's also another question that no one can answer, is why sue now? Not in 95, 97, even 2000, where by then it was a significant, Christmas song every year. That's going to be the big question.
Yeah, I see some people trying to paint this as a David and Goliath scenario, where the little guy is going to score and take down Mariah Carey and Sony. And I just don't think that, I just don't see anything there for that to happen.
Well, even with Lady Antebellum, are you familiar with Lady Antebellum?
Yes.
Well, are you familiar with the lawsuit of them changing their name from Antebellum to A, but there was another artist already called Lady A? They ended up settling it out of court. I do not think that's going to happen in this case. I do think that it's going to be litigated in court. I do not think it's going to make it to a jury. I do not think it's going to make it to a bench trial. I think it will be resolved with a judge's order saying there's not enough here.
Yeah, I have no legal background, but still, I totally agree. I can't see this going anywhere. Well, thank you so much for talking about this with me.
Thank you. I had a lot of fun combining our respective industries together.
I did too.
I learned a lot about the music industry and what happens with multiple song titles. And I hope that I was able to teach you some lessons on the legal world. And sometimes not everything is as easy as it is on TV.
Oh, that's for sure. Thanks so much for listening. And I'm not sure if we really shared Christmas spirit this time around, but I appreciate you helping us, helping this podcast continue to grow. Since you're listening now, you've obviously found us somewhere, but if there's another site you like to use for podcasts, check out our podcast page on our website for the complete list of everywhere you can listen to the Sounds of Christmas podcast. And the website is soundsofchristmas.com. Then just click on the podcast tab. For the Sounds of Christmas station, to listen to the music, you'll need to stick with our website or our app in the Google Play Store. If you have comments or suggestions, feel free to reach out to me on social media or through the website. Thanks again. And may you always believe in Santa Claus.